Hi, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse Frugally. If you are returning, thank you. If you are new, I do a lot of crafts on this channel, some furniture flips, some great dump hauls, and a lot of trash to treasures from those same items. I went with my husband this week and we got a lot of really good things at the dump. And by that I mean tables where people leave things that are still good that you can take or leave. This little step stool is cute, made out of wood. It's dirty and it needs some love, but I'm going to do that later on in the video. This beautiful basket that I think is so cute. I cleaned it, put some flowers in it, put a bow on it, and hung it in my entryway on a beautiful barn board shelf with pegs that a friend had made me some time ago. I saw this really long black basket that had been painted, not in amazing shape, but rather than painting it, I decided I would simply put some white flowers in it and hang it on a wall in my office where I have a whole bunch of primitive country items. And then I found this cute little glass jar with a lavender colored lid, which was brand new, still had the tags on it. These blue little plates or decorative plates of sorts that I knew my daughter would love. This little metal office paper holder. I have another one, so I thought that would go well in my office. Little pumpkin hand soap dispenser. This very large blue vase, again for my daughter. And I saved the best two for last. This incredibly beautiful, all solid wood dresser that had been grain painted. An adorable antique child school desk, which I will flip in my next video. That takes me to item number 1, trash to treasure. In the last dump haul, I had seen this grayish colored cabinet door, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it because, as you may recall, in my last video, I had some news. We are going to have our first grandchild in the beginning of June. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do with this cabinet door. So I started with some wood putty and filled the little hole where the cabinet knob had been, cleaned that, sanded it down, and then just touched up here and there to make the part that I had put the wood in, as well as a couple of other spots to blend on this cabinet door. And then once I got that the way that I wanted that to look, I had purchased the sweetest little cling. Really, it's a stick-on wall. It's not really a transfer. You don't transfer it onto the wall so much as you really just peel and stick it to the wall. And it sticks phenomenally as long as your surface is nice and clean. I just started by cutting out the little bunnies so I would have less of the clear cling. I'm not sure if that's going to be noticeable or not. I've never used this before, so I just wanted to cut kind of close to them. And then all you do is just peel the back white paper off of that item, center it where you want it, and then just put it right down, and it sticks so phenomenally well. I was so pleased. Doesn't look at all like it would lift. It is very, very sticky. And I know that it is removable because I think these window clings, or whatever they are, wall clings, are specifically for that purpose so that you can eventually take them off. But it certainly looks like it will be quite some time before that's necessary. And I just sort of slid the back paper up little by little by little as I got that fitted where I wanted it. Now, I thought this would just be a very sweet little picture. Then once I had that done, I just went around and just really pressed down hard all the way around to make sure that that was good and adhered. And then I turned the item over so that I could add a hanging hook so that I could hang this item. So that really just came out so adorable. I think it is going to be so sweet in the nursery. And I hope that you like it too. I had fun staging it. We have had a number of gifts that keep showing up from friends and family that won't make the shower, and so I was able to use a couple of props, and I think that this is just the sweetest thing. So I had a lot of fun making this one. And you can find that on Amazon. It is a wall decal by Rufaso. On to number 2. Being that frugal is the name of the game here, I did want to give you this tip. If you go to Home Depot, they have these bare samples, and you can have it mixed in any color that you want for $5 in satin, $6 in any other finish. So you may remember this little stool that we picked up at the dump. I had my husband cut the legs down so that it would be a small child-sized stool or the side of a couch table or something like that. Scrubbed that really good to get that clean, and then I didn't turn the camera on. So I started painting it in this color blue, which is Mammoth Mountain. Okay, I went ahead and I painted the base of the stool with 2 coats of this color, letting it dry for a couple of hours in between because this is a latex paint, not a chalk paint, and then turned my attention to the top, which I forgot to mention I had lightly sanded while it was still out in the garage to get the shine off. And I did want to try something similar to like a grain painted look for the top of this. As much as I like the combination of the very light color with this blue, it's a little too coastal for me, so I thought that I would do this two-toned look. So the first maple color looks absolutely horrendous, but just bear with me. It leaves a rather orangey red undertone. Once that is completely dry, I take this hickory colored gel stain and I stain over that maple with this color using a brush that has kind of a rough bristle to give me this streaky look with a touch of the orange showing underneath, which I think really lends itself to an oak look, which is what I was going for. Now that takes me on to Trash to Treasure number 3. This is a picture frame that my husband picked up at the dump, I think maybe 2 dump hauls ago. It's a little bit mahogany and black officey looking, a little masculine for me. And I had mixed up this beautiful robin's egg blue chalk paint, custom color that I absolutely love. And I thought how beautiful this picture frame would look in this color. So I took out the glass and the backing, cleaned everything, and then gave that about 1.5 coats of this chalked paint, which covered so beautifully onto this wood and just looks remarkably better, much more feminine and much more up to date immediately. And then once I was waiting for that to dry, determined what I was going to do with the rest of this frame. I did notice a rather large crack, so I filled the corner with this wood filler, let it dry, cleaned it off, and just touched up the paint. Once that was fully dry, I took out the white wax by Bear, which is a wax that I find goes on nice and smooth and creamy. It is not liquid. It lasts quite a while, and it's rather inexpensive. And I like to keep things frugal as we are doing Farmhouse frugally. So you'll notice that the way that I brush this on, I am, coating the whole thing and then getting the edges so that I can have that wax collect where the design is. And then when I wipe this back with the cloth, I am just sort of leaving the extra wax in those cracks, not trying to get that all out. And that dries nice and smooth to the touch. And I just love the added touch that this white wax gives it. And I just absolutely love white wax and robin's egg blue, one of my all-time favorites. You'll have to let me know what you think of this color. Once that's completely done and I have touched up where I want to touch up, this is how lovely it has come out. You can just see a touch of the white, and I just love the muted tone of it and how soft it feels. I did let that dry, and while that was drying, I pulled out a piece of fabric and ironed it. Now this fabric is kind of like handkerchief fabric, very thin. It's actually a curtain that I got at Goodwill for a couple of dollars, and I am using some fabric glue in my little glue gun here, and I am attaching the fabric directly to the cardboard that came with this picture frame. And you can use the little silicone thing so you don't burn your finger, but honestly, with the fabric one, I don't find that it gets very warm at all. So I just went and did that all the way around the four edges, pulling that nice and taut so that I would have somewhat of a fabric mat for the back of this picture, since I did not have any paper mats or any of the poster board from the dollar store, which is also a nice way to make a mat. Once I have that completely glued all the way around and it is taut enough so that it isn't wrinkled in the front then and trimmed up and everything, then I go ahead and I print off of Graphics Fairy a picture that I thought would go very well, one for the season and two for the color frame that I have here. And I did want to clean up the back of the frame a little bit and the glass and all that, just to prepare this while that art is printing. I'm going to try to remember to leave that for you in the description in case this is a picture that you would like. Otherwise, just go ahead and Google Graphics Fairy and subscribe, and you can get a myriad of free graphic arts from them. Just one of many that will give you that beautiful free, especially if you like vintage. They have a lot of vintage art. Once that was all back together, I absolutely love the way that this came out. I love the print. I love the robin's egg blue. I love the bird theme for spring, and I am really, really happy with how we took this masculine frame and made it much more feminine and much more up to date. Not to mention the bonus of how absolutely beautiful it looks on the dresser in my bedroom with a number of other items that I already have in the blues and the whites. So I would love it if you would leave me a comment as to whether this has inspired you to find a piece of fabric and print a free graphic and find an old frame and put it all together to match your decor. Anytime you do, please share it with me on my Instagram. I love that. Now that takes me on to Trash to Treasure number 4. It's actually a wine box my husband had picked up at the dump a few months back. It's been sitting in my craft room and I've been trying to get rid of some things, so I just taped off the hinges and the handle, took this charcoal chalked paint, and I did paint the entire thing with one coat. That charcoal color covers very well. Even the red was well covered. I did not have to worry about going over it with a second coat. I was a little bit concerned as to whether some of the raised or concave letters on the front might show through, but I knew that it probably wouldn't make much difference based on the design idea that I had for this piece. I didn't think that it would make much difference. If you had some rub and buff, it would probably be good to put some on the hinges to make them look a little newer and a little fresher. My husband probably does have some, so hopefully I will remember to do that at some point. But that is fully covered, even the red, and then I was able to just let that dry and then move on to number 2 part of this, which was to take a white chalked paint and to do that same dry brush technique and to just gently pull across the black with that white paint, giving it a look so that you could see a fair amount of black underneath it. Now, once I am happy with the entire thing being painted and dry brushed and fully dried, then I did remove the tape off of the hinges and the rope hanging thingy, and then I turned my attention to IOD transfers. The reason for wanting to do this was that I had been wanting to use the Eiffel Tower that I have left over from an IOD pack I had bought quite some time ago, and some little Paris pieces that I had from the redesign also from a different project. However, it is slightly too big, and I did not want to catty corner the Eiffel Tower, so I did just cut along the lines and make that fit exactly how I would need it to fit to go onto this box. And I don't think anybody will be none the wiser that this Eiffel Tower is not exactly to scale, but it did end up working pretty well. So I just pieced that together, and as you have seen me and others do a number of times, you just attach, remove the back of the paper from the IOD transfer, lay it where you want it, and use the tool that they give you. The trick to doing this is to spray poly first, which I did do outside without letting you know. That is a good way to get that to make the IOD stick. And the IOD Eiffel Tower stuck very well, very easily to that once I had put the quick poly spray upon it. However, the redesign was not as forgiving. I have to say that one took a little bit more work to release that transfer. It is sometimes possible to catch a little air bubble as you get one piece of it to lay down and sort of follow the wave. As you get the air bubble, it lays down the rest of the transfer in front of that. And or you can actually slide your finger up under at times and just sort of press it down as you go. So it takes a little bit of practice, but certainly anyone can do these IOD and other transfers. And I think that they make such a beautiful statement to any piece, especially for those of us who are not actually artists. I could absolutely never draw or paint the items that I want and have them look anywhere near as good. Now, that being said, the frugal side of me does want to make sure that you understand a lot of the IOD transfers and other transfers are simply designs that they got, free graphic designs that they got from places like Graphics Fairy. So you could go there and you could find very similar, if not the same, graphic and print it on rice paper or tissue paper and decoupage and save yourself the money. And the final step here is I just took a clear wax to protect both the chalk paint and the transfer, and I just waxed over that very quickly with my wax brush, and then took a rag and wiped that back and let that cure. And that is all there was to it. And I think that this piece came out very lovely. It just so happens to match a couple of other items that I currently have in my dining room. So that was kind of a part of the inspiration, as well as the pieces and parts that I have left over from two different IOD and redesign transfers, which, what a beautiful combination. So it's nice to mix and match. So leave me a comment and let me know what you think of that. And that takes me on to my final Trash to Treasure, number 5. And that is the little wooden stool that we picked up at the dump, which was rather dirty. The first thing I did was to go ahead and remove the tacks, remove the fabric, and scrub, and sand. I wanted to make sure that I got the best wood that I could out of this piece. Once that was clean and sanded and dried, I took it up to my deck and I brought out my antiquing wax with a little dark water and a touch of black paint in it. Mixed that together to make a deeper stain color. I like to have a touch of black in that to give it the antique look, and I just went ahead with a brushed that on and then wiped that off with a rag, and it has just a deep grayish dark colored stain look over that wood to break up some of the orange tones in the wood. And then once that was dry, I took out the same blue chalked paint that I had used on the picture frame, and I am just going to dry brush over this. So you just take the brush, wet it with the paint, wipe some of it off on your paper towel or rag, and then I like to touch the edges to make sure that it looks like it has a little of the distressed colors on the edge, and then to very gently and thoroughly take that brush straight across the item back and forth and back and forth, and then you are kind of just removing the rest of what's on the brush little by little by little. And you can turn your brush the other way to give those lines a little bit more definition. And I do that to all sides of this bench. And then once I am happy with how this distressing looks, I go into my IOD stamps and pick out a stamp for the top. I brushed that same color paint on it, and then I lifted that off, and that is the first part that I'm going to do. And then I'm going to let that dry, and then once that is fully dry, I am going to clean that stamp and use the same stamp with the Stays On black ink, because I want the blue color to be like a shadow or a background color to the black ink, which will make the actual, it's an Icy Paris IOD stamp, just stand out on the top of this bench. Once that is fully dry, if you'd like, you could take a light sandpaper and sand a little bit on that just to make it look more rustic. But I think that it came out really sweet, very subtle, just a little bit of something on that bench. It's very simple, but I think that it came out very sweet. You'll have to let me know what you think of that gray washed technique on the wood, and which was your favorite project today. Make sure you stay tuned for that beautiful desk makeover. It came out so nice. I'm going to do that probably in the next couple of days. Thank you for stopping by. I so appreciate all of your lovely comments. I appreciate you taking the time, and I hope that you'll share this with somebody who also might enjoy. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.